Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and well, we're going to work on a reel today that's so big I don't even know if we can keep it in the frame of the picture for servicing. This is a Penn Senator 14.0. I believe there's two models bigger than this. The 16.0 I know for certain, and I believe there is a 20.0 out there as well. This is just a huge reel. Sometimes people call these the Jaws reel. It was made by Penn. I don't believe it's made any longer. I'm going to take this reel apart and service it. It was sent in from Alejandro in Florida, and he's asked me to do the full service on it. And I thought that, well, everybody could benefit from seeing how this reel is made, how it's serviced, and how to keep it fishing for a long time to come. Interestingly enough, by comparison, this is the one below it. And it looks like a little baby compared to it, right? This is the 12.0 Senator. And by comparison, wow, it's just dwarfed it and nested in the shadows. Well, one of the things you're going to find out as we do the service on this reel is, well, Penn stayed consistent with their designs throughout their manufacturing process. And this reel, despite being huge, has the same mechanical structure as, well, a Penn Long Beach 60 made all the way back in the 1940s. So stay tuned. We're going to show you how to service this. And if you like these kinds of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And of course, subscribing to the channel doesn't cost you anything, but it does give you information about when I'm posting the videos and how to, what's up next. Talk about the fishing industries, things like that can help you learn more about fishing and fishing reels. And well, if you're in the repair business, learn how to repair them. If you have one that needs service, learn how to service it. And well, if you're just curious, have your curiosity fulfilled. Well, we're starting by taking off the exterior pieces and parts. You saw me remove the set screw that holds the handle screw in place. And warning, everything on this reel is just big. That's the intimidating factor. It's big. But other than that, well, it's got a pretty straightforward design. And we'll take you through a process that will enable you to learn how to do a reel regardless of whether that reel is big or small, whether it's a freshwater reel or saltwater reel or, well, any kind of reel in between, I guess. And I'll keep them fishing for a long time to come. When I service fishing reels, I like to clean the parts as I take them off. Now, that may not be your way to do it. Maybe you like to take them all off first and then kind of get into cleaning mode. But to me, part of this servicing of a reel is all about the inspection of the pieces and parts. So if you can take it off and look at what you got there and make sure that everything is the way it should be, well, it's one less thing you have to worry about later. Okay, we're going to use a 4.0 steel wool. It's a very fine buffing, polishing kind of a steel wool. It's 40000 is the way it goes. And when I take my pieces and parts off, well, this one will probably come out, but I put the small pieces into a parts tray so I know that where they are. That handle's probably not going to get lost if I lay it on my table there, so we'll take that off. Next off then is going to be the star adjuster. On top of the star adjuster, there is a little shim washer that goes between the adjuster and the handle. And this is a good time to tell you, if you don't know the reel you're working on, maybe even if you do need to know the reel that you're working on, take a moment, take pictures along the way. That'll let you know where the pieces and parts go, so that if you have to step away from the reel, or maybe you just are in a hurry and all of a sudden you're starting to take a lot of things off, it'll give you a reference point that you may be able to use when you put it back together again. And look over in your parts tray or whatever your system is for organizing pieces and parts and say, where did that washer come from? Well, taking a picture at critical junctures is a good way to help you have a reference point for that. Okay, let's clean that up. This is a beautiful made reel, of course. One of the things about this reel is that you can service your drag washers and your gearing without taking the side plate off. And you're going to see that, well, it's a lot of hand strength there. There's a lot of screws holding the side plate in. But what goes on here is you can pull your cap off here, and then everything short of the main gear, which can come out to here, all of this internal, which is all your drag washers, well, they can be replaced without pulling that gear out. So if you're just in the manner of servicing it, it's an advantage not to have to pull the whole reel apart. Okay, there's one more in there. It'll come out over time, I'm sure. All right, there it is. There should be one more drag washer underneath that. So big drag stack equals a lot of max drag. I get a question from time to time if I replace my my washers with Carbon-Tex washers, how much does that improve the max drag? And the answer is it doesn't. Unless you put more Carbon-Tex washers in, there's no change at all in the max drag. Max drag is a function of surface area. And you can see in this stack, which is probably almost 2 inches wide, there's a lot of surface area there, which means there's a lot of max drag. We'll show you how to put that back together later. But we've taken off most of the exterior parts with the exception of the frame. That's where we're going next. Let's clean this up. If you're servicing a reel, you want to make sure that you've cleaned it, you've inspected the pieces and parts, and you got rid of all the dirt and debris that's in there. And this little cap goes on top of all those washers. They go into my parts tray. All right, before I start pulling the side plate screws, it's always a good idea with me on an old reel when I don't know what the status is or the last time it's been serviced. I like to hit these points with penetrating oil, kind of help to loosen those screws and well, avoid breaking them off. I think we're going to take both sides of this off just for fun. This is going to be a long video. I'll warn you in advance of that. So if you want to go get your favorite beverage while I'm doing some of this stuff, go right ahead. Don't be afraid to pause the video. I'm not going to pause here unless, well, I know at one point in time my machine is probably going to time out here and I'll probably have to change the battery. But overall, take your time. There's no rush. You don't earn points for servicing a fishing reel and racing through it. You earn points by getting it right, huh? All right. There's 2 sets of harness lugs on this. There's 3 sets on this one. Well, front, back, and side. So every one has a double post. Every one of them has a harness lug on it. Just take notes. It's always good. And again, if I'm out of frame on this, I'm going to apologize. This is a huge reel, and I have a fixed camera, and it normally just is set for something a little bit smaller than this. So if you find that I'm getting it out of the way sometimes, I do apologize. I will look up on my monitor from time to time, try and get that back into frame. Yeah, so one of the things I was curious about, this one came in from Florida. It would seem to me that there should be plenty of folks down in Florida that can service this reel. But, to my surprise, it wound up in my on my porch from a delivery service, asking for it to be serviced. There you go. Well, as I'm taking these screws off, I'm making sure that they're all the same size. Penn should have a different size screw for the reel seat. That's where the fishing reel attaches to the pole. But all these others, I'm thinking, because of the fact that they're all kind of lined up here, that they should be the same size. This one may be different because it doesn't have the lug. I'll just take a quick look here and make sure. That one's fine. And we have one on this side as well. Okay, it's a huge reel. The Senators were the first reels that Penn came out with. Oh, there's some prototypes, but basically these reels go back to the 1940s. Penn, I think, started making their reels in 36 or 37, somewhere in there. But the fellow who made the reels was an employee of Ocean City, which was also in Philadelphia, Ocean City Manufacturing Company. Decided he would go out on his own because he thought he could produce a reel of comparable quality at lesser cost and kind of target those to the everyday fishermen rather than kind of the elitists They could afford the Ocean City reels. And remember, the 30s, we're in a depression in the U.S., so every dollar counted, and not everybody could afford to go out and spend quite an exorbitant amount of money on a fishing reel. All of the screws are out. Those screws that are the Phillips head screws are actually the screws that are the back. And look at this. Here's our engineering for this reel. Here's a reel, the Long Beach reel, that has the same type of a setup. Amazing, right? I guess that's a tribute to good design. If your design works on a smaller scale, it should work on a larger scale. Let's talk about larger scale. That spool is just incredible. All right. I did say we were going to do all of the pieces on this, so let's get started with that. And, well, this is a good time to tell you to ask questions. If you're curious about the reels, if you're kind of wondering who would use this, what they would use it for, if you've seen the movie Jaws, you probably know some of the answers, right? But it's a very big trolling reel for very big fish. I think the modern day Senators are now made in China, but I don't believe they go beyond the 9.0 Senator. So these are kind of history pieces here. I don't know if Penn will ever make them again, but I don't believe they're making them right now. This one on eBay or in the used marketplace, I believe, is probably selling high hundreds, maybe $600, $700, $800. I don't know, somewhere around there, maybe more. So imagine that. If that's today's, think about what the cost of that was in the 40s, and who could afford them. Certainly a week's worth of wages or something in a tough economic environment. All right, now these are interchangeable. I haven't done anything to mark the location. Sometimes a frame might get a little bit out of square. If it does, you probably want to put the posts back exactly how they were seated when you took them off. And I'm kind of doing that. Like I said, I haven't marked them, but what I'm doing here is, you notice I'm lining them up bottom to top from one side to the other. And I'll probably put them back the way they came. It's not a bad practice. I do want to get these off so we can do a little bit of buffing and cleaning. There's a lot of little sea spray greening going on here. There's nothing seriously damaged with this. And interestingly enough, I think you can still get the majority of the parts for this reel. You can certainly get the drag washers and the consumable kind of stuff. I think you can get the other stuff, a lot of the other stuff as well. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to go check. One of the sources, I always get asked sources for these parts, is mysticparts.com. They're in New Jersey here. They are an authorized distributor of Penn's parts. They're probably the #1 go-to place for Penn. Penn will send folks over to Mystic Parts to get what it is they need when you call them, especially on the older stuff. Penn is still in Philadelphia. And, well, most of the stuff that they do there's only a little bit of manufacturing going on. Some of the international Gold Series reels. Wow, this one's stuck. I almost got away with getting these off without incident. This one looks like it doesn't want to come off. All right, we're not gonna kick the dog or wake him up at this point. We're going to have to go with leaving that one in there. All right, we're going to clean this next. I'm going to use a chrome polish. This is Turtle Wax chrome polish. It's a metal polish. I don't think any cars have metal bumpers on them anymore and very little chrome, but Turtle Wax still makes the polish. Again, a very fine steel wool 0000, the 4. I say 40, but in the world of fishing reels, people have a different understanding of what 4-aught is. So we'll just go with 0000, and that's just enough aberration to knock off some of the more stubborn pieces. If you have a nice, really clean one, go with a kitchen scrubby. The general rule of thumb, the less abrasive it is, the better. You can see the first layer, and then you can rub a little bit harder when you find that there's something maybe that didn't come off the first time. So some folks just like to tune up a reel and not do the cleaning. They just come in and clean up the old oils and greases, put back in fresh, get on the go. I kind of think that the extra few minutes is worth it. If you're going to take the time to service your reel, which you should do on an annual basis, I kind of say that you might as well take the extra few minutes. Now in this case, of course, it's a longer reel, it's a bigger reel, it's got more to clean, if you will. But you can see it kind of moves along quickly when you know what you're doing. Well, even if you don't know what you're doing, it still kind of moves along quickly. It's just not going to be one of these 15-minute reels that you may be, has fewer parts and it's not a wrestling match and all that other kind of stuff that goes along with that. All right, this one cleans up nicely. You can see that the polish does take away a lot of the green. It does help restore the shine of what's there. And, well, again, if you see something that you think maybe you can buff out a little bit more, go ahead and do that. Now, you can't change missing plating. If the plating is worn, you're done. But you can't clean it up, stop any kind of progression of any of the greening or corrosion. If I didn't mention it before, the bottom 3 screws actually are Phillips head, so it's kind of hard to get them confused with the other ones, which is a flathead piece. And put these 3 in, we'll polish up this back side. Just getting the other screws, putting them in their place. I'm going to use the metal polish for the outside rim here. And then we'll use a rod and reel cleaner for the plate. This is a beautiful etched plate. This one has a scene of a billfish kind of breaking water. And that kind of gives you an indication of what it would be used for. No surprise it's coming out of Florida. Florida has some wonderful big game fishing there. All right, we did that. And makes a rod and reel cleaner that's good for taking off kind of the film and things that kind of accumulate onto side plates and the like, salt air, mist, micro sands and the like. So I use a kitchen scrubby and that rod and reel cleaner, and that generally will clean it up. Now it's not going to restore the luster. I mean, it's a little wet here. It'll make it look like it's brand new. That's never going to happen, but it does a nice job there. Okay, this one has a bearing with a couple of shims on it. And pay attention to that as you do this. I'm going to wipe off the bearing, test it. It's running fine, and I choose to oil bearings. Some folks like to grease them. I choose to oil them. Bearing cup goes inside. We'll take our little scrubby pad on the inside of this, clean the inner cavities, and now we can turn our attention to the posts. I'll put those 2 shim washers back in there. Hopefully when I go to reinstall the spool, I'll remember that they're there. Okay, we've got probably got enough cleaner on this right now. We're just going to do the same thing with all of the cross posts. And again, it won't restore UV damage. It won't restore lost plating, but it will take off the greening for the most part. And well, that's about as best as you can expect going forward. All right, that's one. And just like the other one, you may find that when you did it the first time, there's something that you didn't get. Just come back and get it the second time, that's all. Okay, that's number one. We're just going to put them in reverse, the way we took them out. We'll put them back in. Put a drop of oil on it here so that they go in smoothly. And for the most part, you can run these in by hand, at least to get them started. One of the things I don't see on this reel is the reel tie down. I imagine it's there, just not shipped. But typically you would have a reel tie down to anchor that to the pole. Alright, this is kind of redundant now. We're just going to do this a couple more times. This is a good time for you to go get your coffee or your favorite adult beverage. And come on back, fast forward, because there's quite a few more of these to go. And I'd like to keep the camera running. That is just me. A lot of folks will speed it up, or they'll skip over and come on back when they've done the 7 or 8 or 10 of these things. To me, we do this in real time, and you're never quite sure what you're going to find. So there we go. So I let it run. I appreciate your time and energy, and if you, again, if you think that you want to skip ahead, pause, do whatever, go right ahead. The only one of these that really survived today in terms of something that you just can't get any better in the industry, if you will, is the 4.0 and the 6.0 Senators. And again, those are made in China today. You do have a U.S. Senator out there, which is a beautiful reel. I believe that's also in the 4.0 version. That is made in Philadelphia. So it's the U.S. Senator and it's the international reels, the golds, that are the only ones still made here. Okay. And again, this is more preventative. So folks ask, well, it's got greening on it. How do I stop it from greening? I think the answer is that you just do the basic maintenance practices that are always recommended. Make sure when you're at the end of the trip that you take the time to flush the reel. Use fresh water to do that. Just flush it. I think my preferred method is to fill a bucket with fresh water, enough to cover the reel. Take the reel off the pole, put it in that bucket of water, and let it sit overnight. That'll dissolve any of the micro sands and salts that may be on the reel. And, well, you don't have to spend a lot of time scrubbing the lake. It'll just kind of let nature do its task. And surprisingly, when you come back in the morning, you look in the bottom of the bucket, and you'll see all kinds of stuff in there that wasn't there when you started. Okay, we're kind of turning the bend on this one, and we'll get over to the heart of the matter. And that'll probably be about the time where I choose to take a momentary break. And it's also about the time that the battery's going to run down on my camera. It's got a timer on it, so I'm thinking, let's finish these 3, take a short break, and come on back, if you will. By now, I'm imagining that YouTube has probably sent you several commercials. I don't have control over when they place those commercials and what they're airing, but I do appreciate you coming back despite the disruptions there. Okay, Now we got 2 more left. All right. These are cleaning up nicely. As you can see, they're nicer than when we started. And they're not fully tightened down yet. But we'll take care of that probably on the break. One more. This one seems to be chewed up the most. If you work on enough of these reels, there's a couple of curiosity points. One of them is where the salt gathers on the spool. It always seems it's on the drive side more than it is on the non-gear side. And kind of the same thing with corrosion. And I'm just, one of these days I'll have somebody explain it to me why that happens, but it does happen. All right, so last of them. So what we'll do is we'll shut the camera off, take a little bit of a break here, and come on back. We'll do the I'll clean up that spool. I'll tighten down this side. We'll get over to the gear side. Okay, we're back, and I did take a moment in between the pauses there to clean up this side with the polishing, as we did with the other. Well, now it's time to get on to the star of the show, the gearing system itself. Very big pinion gear. There's a main gear under here. This is your jack that's going to release it to free spool. Right now it's this is engaged. Flip your switch. It pulls that back in and off of the spool so that it can go to free spool. All right, put it back in there. There's 4 screws on this side. Match your screwdriver to the slot in the screw. Do not use an undersized screwdriver. If you do, you risk butterflying the screw slot, and it may be that next time around you won't be able to get that screw out or in because you'll lose that slot. There's 4 screws. 2 of them are threaded. They go on the bottoms. 2 of them have a partial thread on them because up top on your yoke you have springs, and the partial threading with the smooth base allows those springs to move up and down without catching on the threads. This is the last one. If you don't know what you're doing at this point, get a schematic before you start doing this. There is an anti-reverse dog and springs in here, as I mentioned. You don't want to lose those. So a good tip here is to turn your plate this way. Hold your hand here because there are pieces that may move and at least they'll fall down. Those of you that may be uncomfortable doing that, go get a big plastic bag. Put this assembly inside the plastic bag before you take this off. That way, if anything does shoot, it would be contained in that bag. All right. My hands aren't even big enough to do this. Let's push this through. Okay, this is what I was looking for right here, so we can take a quick look. This has a mechanical spring on it that nests inside the case here. This is what you need to make sure doesn't fly. All right, let's get this off. Interestingly enough, if you lost that spring, looks like you may have a substitute right in here, huh? That spring is just about right. That's a tip for another program, but sometimes the springs on ballpoint pens can actually be used as replacements if you find yourself in that unfortunate situation of losing that spring. Okay, pictures. Take the pictures again. Know where these go. Know how they go. And this one is sitting down. The ridge comes underneath here. That will intersect with the cavity there. We should be able to pull the assembly out. That's just a huge main gear. We want to push down on our yoke. That'll enable you to remove the jack. Hand strength here is everything. When you don't have enough luck with that, go ahead and grab a pliers to help you hold that. Big pinion gear. So if you looked at that other example where the engineering is the same, you'll find that those gears are nowhere near what these are. but design-wise, they're the same. Okay, it's a good thing that this reel was sent in. We have a lot of old dirt and grease and debris in this. We're going to take our time to clean that up. Let's see if we can get this off here. So to remove your gear sleeve, you use an awl and you push the pin through. Then you can pull your pin up. Then you can get at all the dirt and debris that's underneath that casing. I'm going to grab a paper towel for this. Move this off to the side for a moment. Grab a paper towel. I use a penetrating oil. Like to flood the area. And generally it'll dissolve the greases that are on there. And you can clean all of that off. That penetrating oil is always on my desk. It's always used. Alright, that cleans that up nicely. Squirt it inside this. Use a cotton swab. Get underneath here. Run it through the channel there. Get any debris that might be out on that. All of the reels I use fishing reel grease on. We're going to use Penn Precision reel grease here. That's the blue grease. Make sure you get some on that shaft. Bring your gear sleeve over. If you need an assist pulling this in, use the channel lock pliers. You can tap it in. Bring that all the way in, and you need to make sure that this pin is inside the ridge here. Just like the smaller versions of the reel. Take that ridge and put that off to the side for a moment. We have the same thing going on here. We just have old greases. Penetrating oil will generally act as the solvent to do that. And while I'm at it, I'm going to squirt all of the gearing. That's why I wear the glove. There's a lot of dirt and debris and junk that's on the table. I like to protect the hand that I can. And once that penetrating oil does its thing, it's an easy wipe off. If you need a little bit more of assist, go back to that steel wool I was showing you earlier. That'll help you get anything that's stubborn off of there. But overall, the penetrating oil, maybe a little bristle brush or something will help solve that. Back into this is good. This is just plating loss on here. That's not dirt and debris. And then we come to the two main gears, the stars of the show, the reason why this thing is what it is. I'm going to use a bristle brush here and pull through. Make sure that all of the valleys and the teeth are cleaned, clear. And you'll notice that towel underneath there is kind of getting all of the dirt that's getting brushed off here. Well, it's not dirt, it's basically dried grease, but you get the idea. And I like to do that because it doesn't transfer over to the board that I'm working with behind it. And now I have a cleaned gear. Again, don't leave the old debris, don't leave the old dirt. Like some people just have a tendency to come in and just put more grease on it. Say, oh, the original grease is still good, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. We were talking about the micro sands and salts and everything earlier that kind of get in the reel after a trip. Well, it gets in here too. These can't be sealed reels. These reels have openings on the side where the spool comes in, so it's not going to seal there. All right, get that last washer off the back there, do the same thing. And it's interesting, you look at this stuff and you say, well, why? Well, you know, that grease can affect the geometry of the reel too. So clean it off. All right, this goes back on. And if you didn't have that pin all the way in, you would not get this main gear over. Take the time here to also do the greasing up of the main gear. I use an artist brush when I do this. I like it because it's a nice even spread and you don't lose the hairs. Every now and then I see people using like plumber's flux brushes and other things. used to use a screwdriver, but it drove all of the watchers crazy with the click, click, click on the metal. So somebody told me to save their ears, get a brush. When I decided what brush to get, I settled right in on an artist's brush. All right, good amount of grease on there. Set that aside for a moment. One more to clean up here. We'll do the same thing. Let's get this one off. A lot of dirt on those. People ask why I charge more for the bigger reels. Well, I think we're seeing it, right? One, they take longer, and two, you go through a lot of supplies with them. All right, almost done here. I'm inspecting the teeth as we do this. I want to make sure that there's no damage to the teeth. You would know it if it was your reel, because you would get a skip going. I just had a Nakuma come in with that. Had damaged teeth that was causing the reel to skip. But if you're doing this thing as a service for somebody, you don't know what it is unless the person told you. And, well, sometimes their descriptions of it may not actually be what's really happening in the reel. So take your time, examine all those pieces and parts. All right, clean here, clean here. All the channels in the teeth are clean. Let's do the same thing we just did before. Let's get a good amount of grease onto this. Now, you don't have to get this thing overcaked with grease. Actually, if you overload the thing, it's only going to spin the grease off. And then you'll be just lodged inside the side plate somewhere, collecting dirt and debris. So a good amount. And don't worry if you don't get it in every tooth, because the big gear and the little gear are different sizes, and they will spread it as you crank. All right, one more piece that we're going to lubricate, and that is the yoke. And we'll get this thing back together again. We'll test it, make sure that everything we did is correct, and we'll get it out there fishing. All right, grease the shoulders of your yoke, bring that onto your pinion gear. And as they say in the wrestling world, let's get ready to rumble. All right, your next step then is your two big springs. There you go next. Bearing's fine. I'm not sure if I oiled that previously. We'll oil it now. We're going to bring our yoke in with the pinion gear. Center that over your springs. Kind of the reverse of what we did earlier. Press down on that assembly. Bring your jack in. Hook that over. And make sure that the stud on the side plate is in that ramp. Next up then, we're going to bring our gearing in, the main gear section in the bridge. I'm going to bring this in from below. Bring it over. And then this is where it always gets funky with this reel, because that main gear floats. So when you go to set your anti-reverse dog, sometimes it gets trapped and it doesn't load in all the way. So what I like to do is kind of hold it this way so I can push the main gear up against it and avoid that. We'll bring our anti-reverse dog over. A little bit of oil onto the post. And then bring that spring. And again, you're in danger here. In danger. Be cautious. This spring can shoot. And I'm in an open position here, so I want to make sure that I take all appropriate cautions so that it doesn't shoot. Our spring is loaded. Rotate your bridge. Bring in your pinion gear. Keep your pressure on your main gear. And then we can put a bridge screw, fully loaded bridge screw here. Get that started. Then take a partially threaded screw and go to the other side up top. And that should align all of the holes if you get this one started properly. Bring the other two in. Fully threaded goes below. partially up top through the spring. And then go back and make sure all of these are tight. Before you go any further, make sure that dog is working. So turn it, and you can hear that the dog is working just fine. Thank you very much. Okay, this is what it looks like from the back again, just as it looked like in the front. The one thing we didn't lubricate was the jack because, well, it's hard to get the grease right there before you assemble the reel. You can also put a little bit of grease inside the pinion gear. We're good to go on that. Okay, whole big drag stack here. So these are the HT100 drags that get changed out over time. Big drags, right? Okay, let's see what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8. Cap. Always forget the cap. All right. These alternate. You start, now it's going to be the top one. You start with the keyed washer and alternate keyed washer, eared washer, keyed washer, eared washer, keyed washer, ear washer, keyed washer, cap washer. Okay, and the back one here. That's the extra. All right, these can go in dry or they can go in with a slight coating of grease on them. They're carbon tex, they're non-porous. You don't need grease on them. These haven't been installed with grease, so we're going to stay that way. You alternate. First one in would be a drag washer. Keyed washer, the one with the rectangular in the center. Fabric washer number 2. Eared washer, 2 slots in the main gear. They need to go in the slots. Drag washer. Keyed washer, keep control of these, know what you're doing. Drag washer. Eared washer. Drag washer. Getting the point now? Keyed washer. Drag washer. Eared washer. Drag washer. Keyed washer. Drag washer. Top washer. Cap. Boy, that seemed easy, huh? Yeah. Okay. All right. Before I go any further with that, we're going to go put the assembly on for our star adjuster. Big washer goes in the middle of this. Actually rides in the groove here. Like that. Bring that whole thing over. Bring that down. Now, if we did not do the removal of this gear shaft, you could put oil in there. That's what it says on your cap here. It says oil. That is an oil port for opportunities in between. But if you're taking the sleeve off, you do not need to put oil in that. All right, here's that big thing we were working on before. Time to reintroduce these, make them friends again. A little bit of grease onto the internal shaft. You did see me put some grease into the pinion gear. Best way to do this is get the 3 holes here that are your base plate holes. Bring that over. Let's bring all of this in. I like to pull that into free spool for mounting because it takes the tension off of the case. And we just want to put a couple of anchor ones in right now. So the first anchor one that we're going to put in is going to be a screw for the reel seat. Then I'm going to go north. Bring one all the way up top here to anchor the reel this side. Switch over. And there's no tension in this reel at all. That's a good thing about this. Sometimes you're going to have a wrestling match. All right, we can go east or west. Doesn't really matter which way we go now. And make sure you align your harness. These are double posted. I actually saw one the other day, which is really interesting. It had the double post, and then it had a huge kind of a broom handle, kind of an extension here where you could grab it from up top. So that's when you know that you've got a big reel you're working with. Okay, let's make sure this one goes in. And now we can fill in the blanks. We've got the reel anchored on all sides. Make sure these screws are tightened down. Side posts here, get these in. Well, if you're with me this long and you haven't subscribed, again, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. Again, it doesn't cost you anything. And, well, you'll get to see projects like this. You'll get to see projects on very small reels. You'll see projects that I'm working on with spinning reels, bait casting reels, classics, the new latest and greatest things. Keep forgetting this reel is so big that it may be out of frame, and I apologize. But subscribing also helps me on a number of fronts. One, of course, is that your channel gets a little more recognition, but more importantly, the more people that I have that are telling me what they'd like to see in terms of the videos and what topics they would like covered and so on, just helps me to better serve your needs. There we go. I have a little trouble centering this one for some reason. This probably goes back to what I was saying before about sometimes you get a piece that's a little bent or something. There we go. I think we got it that time. Bent or something because of the use over time. Sometimes they warp and do things like that. If you put them back in the same place, generally it's not going to affect the performance of the reel. If you switch it around, sometimes it will cause a bind or another issue. Okay. As I'm doing these, I'm making sure that we're tightening the pair as we finish those pairs off. Okay. I think there's two more maybe that are the reel seat screws. Well, this is probably going to be nice and ready for the fall fishing season. Not quite sure what they're going to target down there in September, October, but this one will be ready to go. Just add line. And boy, is this one going to take a lot of line. I'm going to imagine this is going to take 1,000 yards plus of line. I'm not sure what line he's going to put on this. I just had a reel in the other day. Big Penn International had 100-pound monofilament on it. Most of the folks on a bigger reel like this now will probably go to the braided line. Just not sure. Okay, two more of these and we switch over our screwdrivers. We're almost done. This is crazy. I know we're coming up on 45 minutes or so in this video, and I really do appreciate everybody who's still here watching. It's quite an arduous task to do one of these. All right, that's two. Just trying to get them started. They're just being a little bit stubborn. There you go. All right. Over the side so I can get the leverage. One more. All right, we're tightened all the way down on that side. And just for good measure, we'll make sure that all of these got tightened on this side. I think I remember doing that, but it's been a while. Usually my viewers will keep me honest anyway. Tell me, oh, you forgot. Well, let's not forget. All right, I think we're pretty good. Yep, that one's a little loose. Yep, we're all good. Okay, handle time and test time. This is why you take pictures. It's been a long while. You might forget where that one goes. Bring that shim washer on. Handle. All nicely polished. Handle screw. Do as much of this by hand as you can. That way you don't risk cross-stripping it. And it's going to tell you if it's going in easy or not. Bring our star adjuster down so that we don't trap the handle on it. Grab your wrench. This is an Allen-Taney wrench. A lot of folks ask me. This is not the wrench that is supplied with the reel. It's a little bit thicker and a little bit longer for better leverage. And if you work on a lot of pen reels, it becomes an indispensable tool. Last one. The last will be first, and the first shall be last. This is the first piece we took off the retaining screw. And we'll be ready for a test. Okay, there we go. One more piece. So you have an oil port on your handle. Go ahead and use an oiler to put some oil in there. Also, you can put a little throw of oil around the base. All right, gloves off. There might be a little bit of residual greases that have transferred for your gloves, so just give it a look over cosmetically. It's a beautiful reel. Polished up nicely. All of the greening in that, for the most part, has been taken care of. We're in free spool, so that's the first thing to test. Just give it a spin. I don't know if we can see this spinning, but it spins nice and free and easy here. So just look at the center stud. That's all doing well. Let's put it into gear. Give it a crank. So your anti-reverse is working. You can hear that click, click. Nice solid drives. This one's ready to go catch jaws. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. It's been a long time. I thank you for staying with this. It's always a fun project to do, but I understand, well, you've got other things to do as well. So, thanks for watching. I also want to take a moment here to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, and rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. Truly do appreciate your efforts day in and day out, and your dedication to task and service. This is Dennis with a big pen, the Penn 14-0 Senator, wishing everybody a great day. Thanks for watching.